she told us something very interesting. Now they are only growing enough ragi for their family in half an acre of land. Why is that? Hello, my name is Aparna Karthikeyan. I'm an independent journalist. I write for People's Archive of Rural India, where I'm a senior fellow. My work has been funded by the Azim Premji University research grant. My series is called Let the Meat Rise. I'm here to talk to you about one of the crops, which is ragi. Ragi evokes a lot of emotions in a lot of people. It is the millet that their families used to eat, as opposed to, what they now occasionally eat, right? In the form of, let's say, a kanji or sometimes in dosa. Ragi was a staple in many regions across the country, particularly in the borderlands between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, where I went for the story. I went to nearby Hosur in Denkani Kotai Taluka, a really beautiful area, not very far from the forest. Now, in Denkani Kotai, we went to this village called as Vadrapalayam, where we met Nagireddy sir. Nagireddy is over 86 years old and a very, very interesting person, deep knowledge about, crops, about the landscape. And he told us something very interesting. Now they are only growing enough ragi for their family in half an acre of land. Why is that? They get some friends from the forest walking to their fields when the ragi crop is ready, happily eating up the whole thing and going. Who are those friends? Mottewal, Makkana, Giri, 3 of them are elephants. And they are coming to their fields with such regularity, not just to eat the ragi, but also other crops like jackfruit, which is growing there, or anything that they think is edible. I mean, if there's going to be like a banana, mangoes during the season, the elephants are just roaming around in that area. Why can't they keep the elephants out? And is this a new problem? The family's been there for 8-9 decades. They've done farming there for over 100 years in that exact area. They say that the forest, it's not just the forest shrinking, which is, something that we very quickly say that, there's been encroachment in the forest. It's not that. The quality of the food in the forest has also come down, right? So, in place of the nutritious things that the elephants had to eat inside, now there is lantana everywhere. And that's not something that the elephants want to eat. So, they migrate outside and they've also become nocturnal, which they weren't apparently, because that's the time when they feel they can, walk into the fields, have a nice, meal, and then head back to the forest to have a nap during the day. So the elephants are changing their lives, their patterns, based on how things are inside the forest, right? The really surprising thing was the attitude of the farmers towards the elephant. They did not see it as, of course it is a conflict, of course, it is something that causes a loss of livelihood, but there is no anger there, there is no, resentment there. It's like, I have a small stomach, I have to feed myself. The elephant has a very large stomach, he has to feed himself. That's the kind of way that, people talk about the elephants, right? The whole ragi, what we get, the organic ragi that comes from that area, which I did buy and then go home from a shop in that area, is so fragrant. But what Nagireddy sir told me and what his son Ananda sir told me is that this is not a patch on the kind of ragi that they got earlier. Biodiversity is one of the earliest and I think the first things to go out of the window when there is any problem with any crop, right? With ragi, Ananda sir and his father, Nagireddy sir told me that earlier the finger of ragi used to be this big. They showed me the size of a lotus and they're saying now it's only this big, right? Which is the size of a rose. And why do I say rose? Because to combat this whole man-animal conflict, that area people have started growing flowers. Why flowers? Why roses? Because elephants don't eat roses. It's a very odd. They grow eucalyptus trees again, which do not attract elephants as food. It's a very in front of our eyes a transformation that is happening in the countryside, where people grew food for themselves and who made sure that there was food security. For all of us, have to now switch to crops just so that their fields will yield them something. And that yield could be anything. As long as there is a market for it, they have to shift to it. So the solutions that I am often, given when I talk about this to, let's say in a dinner table conversation or something like that, people should just sell their land. If it's not profitable, why should they do it? oh, they should apply for compensation and insurance. All of that is very, very difficult. We have done, my colleague and I, Palani Kumar, who's an award-winning photojournalist, we went to this area, we spent some days with the farmers there. We also met people who are talking about the man-animal conflict in a very deep, humane and compassionate way. You find two stories on this subject, about Ragi, about the historicity of the crop in the area across Tamil Nadu, how it featured in Sangam literature. This is an old crop. It's not like, we've started growing this now. We talk about quinoa now, right? But we're not celebrating our own millets enough, right? So we want superfoods which come across the sea in a business class plane ticket. But what are we doing for our own crops? Most importantly, what are we doing for the farmers who are growing it? Their asks are so simple. They want a few rupees more, for a kilo. Few rupees, right? They don't want to sell it at a loss. That's all that they're asking. Just give us what we have, put in to raise this crop, plus give us a little bit for our effort. That is it. Nobody is sitting there and acting pricey and saying we will not sell it, below a certain price. That, I think, if we do, right, we will have retained this very nutritious crop in our diets. We will get to keep this nutritious crop in our lives, right? So, to know more about Ananda sir and Nagi Reddy sir, please look at the stories below. There are a couple of stories on the elephant. One is exclusively about Moteval. Such a character. We went looking for him, all around this area. All that we found was his poo and his footprints. The footprints were so huge footprints, right? But the person we were staying with kept telling us, do you know that tree there? You've seen it's fallen. Last time Moteval came here, he wanted the mangoes, but he couldn't reach the higher branches. So he took down the tree. And then you go to another place and somebody says, that jackfruit over there. So Moteval came here. He couldn't reach the higher branches. So he stood on the tree. And when an elephant stands on a tree to reach anything, the tree is going to fall. There are these, it's almost like a phantom figure. You go anywhere and then people are speaking to you about Moteval. But as if Moteval is a long lost friend. Not as an animal that is coming there and causing a lot of damage. Because that's the kind of, I think, relationship that people have with the land and the landscape and the animals. They're trying to coexist. To respect that, all that we need to do is demand a better price, for the produce that we get from them, and see that the government introduces these millets back into the PDS system, which Tamil Nadu has started doing, so that people go back and eat their heritage varieties, and also create a market for more varieties of any of these crops, so particularly things like Ragi, because otherwise even the farmers will tell you now, what we get hybrid. And they are tired of it. They want the old Ragi back, the one that had such a big head. As we go along, we'll look at the other stories in the series, some of the reporting that I have completed and some of the stories that I've written. Please do give the story a read. The link is at the bottom of the video. Thank you.